Hi, this is Jeff Spence, your Math 120 instructor for the Community College of Denver, and this is our video lecture over section 1.2, which covers estimation, graphs, and mathematical models. We'll be spending most of our time in this section looking at estimation and rounding. The graphs and mathematical models will be covered in later sections as well. So our objectives are to use estimation techniques to arrive at an approximate answer, and also to come up with rounding answers. So estimation is the process of arriving at an approximate answer to a question. The big thing that we're going to just make sure that we're good on is rounding, because a lot of answers later on will require certain rounding rules, whether it be the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth for money. Nearest hundredth is also the same thing as nearest cent. So let's take a look. So rounding, whenever we're instructed to round at a certain spot, it says look at the digit to the right of the digit where we're supposed to round. So if you're supposed to round to a particular digit, you always look to the digit directly to the right of that 1. If the digit to the right is 5 or greater, then we add 1 to the digit to be rounded, and then we put zeros to the right. If the digit to the right is less than 5, then we basically keep it the same and then put zeros to the right of that. So basically you just have to know we round up if the digit to the right is 5 or greater, and we keep it the same if it's 0 through 4, if the digit to the right is 0 through 4. Some people call that rounding down. So then sometimes you'll see this squiggly equal sign, which means approximately equal to, because we've rounded it. So it says here's the world population, 7,058,746,857. And it says round to the nearest 100 million. The nearest 100 million. Well, these are the millions right here. When we get to 8, that's 8 million. So this is 10 million, 100 million. It says round to the nearest 100 million, which means we want to look to the digit to the right, and it's a 5. So that means that we're going to take this 1 or 0 and round it up to a 1. 7,100,000,000. So the 100 million digit is that 0, is what it's showing right here. The digit to the right is a 5. So we're going to call that 7,100,000,000. The world population, there we go. Okay. Here's the world population again. We want to round to the nearest million. Well, let me just go over the spots again if you don't know them. This is ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, billions, and so on, and it goes in that pattern. So if you need to get that down and jot those down in your notes, just rewind the video of what I said each spot is. So the nearest million is the 8 digit, so we're going to look to the right of that. That's also 5 or above, so we're going to add 1 to the 8, and we're going to call it 7,059,000,000, and then zeros after that. Okay, 100,000. 100,000 is this digit right here. And we're going to look to the digit to the right. That's a 0 to 4. So we're going to keep the 7 a 7 and put zeros everything to the right of that 7. So there's our 58,700,000. So we just cut that off and put zeros. Okay, let's look at pi. We're going to start rounding some decimals. Okay, and if you need to know the names of the decimals to the right, we go by tens, hundreds. Sorry, let me start again. Tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. Okay, so tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. This one says round to the nearest hundredth. That's going to be a very common rounding thing for us. The nearest hundredth, which is the second decimal place. Sometimes we'll say nearest cent. So the nearest hundredth, we look to the right of that. That's a 1. So that's going to keep it, the 4 the same, and then we're going to put zeros or just cut it off after that point. When you put zeros to the right of decimal, it's basically like it's not there. Oh, and then to the nearest thousandth, so we have 10, 100, thousandth. To the right of this thousandth is a 5, so we have to round that up to a 2, so this is going to be 3.142. All right, estimation by rounding. So let's say you purchased bread for $2.59, all these items, and the total bill was $18.67. Is this amount reasonable? To check, round the cost of each item to the nearest dollar. So that's what they're doing here, 259. So to the nearest dollar, you just look to the digit to the right and decide whether it's going to be staying at that dollar or going up. So since this is a 5, it goes up to a 3. Since this is a 1, this stays as a 2. Since this is a 6, it goes up to 4. Since this is a 4, this stays at 0, which is kind of stupid, but I would round probably to the nearest tenth. But anyway, and then since this is 7, this is $6. When you add that up, it's $15. So 18.7 seems a bit high. You might want to double check the math and add up the numbers to see if they did your bill correctly. All right, so that's it for rounding. But let me just remind you, a lot of times we're going to be rounding decimals to the nearest tenth, nearest hundredth, which is the first decimal place and the next decimal place. You got to remember the rules about if it's 5, if the digit to the right is 5 or greater, you round up, and if it's 0 to 4, you keep it the same and cut it off.